Greetings, everybody. It's Jim, and I think I have now read probably the best book for adventure hooks I have ever in my life. And I don't mean it's a book of adventure hooks. It's not one of those 100 in the forest, 100 in the city, where it seems like they're playing Mad Libs and they're just cutting and pasting all over the place. Uh-uh. This is very organic stuff here. As you read, whether you read the whole book from beginning to end, left to right, or you just leaf through it all from time to time at bed at night, these ideas will come into your mind for ideas of adventure. And I mean adventures big and small. It could be very episodic and like, okay, we're going to do this week. And all of a sudden with these four characters and these four characters the next week. Or it can have an overarching theme for something very big. I mean, the whole potential is there and it can be constrained all within the confines of the setting itself, or you can go to other places and not too far, just bash around. I mean, there is a lot of potential here. That is the idea of what I'm going to be talking to you today about. And it is the Terreo School of Martial Magic from, of course, David Pulver for Steve Jackson Games. So to get a gist of what the Terreo School of Martial Magic is all about, as if you didn't know from the title already, let's read the first paragraph to the introduction by Steve Jackson. This is a book about a wizard school, vaguely modeled after English public schools, but this is no Harry Potter. These students are training to fight and kill. Their classes, their field trips, and their constant duels all have one goal in mind: to create effective magical warriors. And that is the biggest thing that David Pulver does to make this really shine, is he really goes into the society and says, what would society really be like for people like this? And as you can imagine, by anybody signing up to go to the military, it's all about a whole bunch of people acting like alphas. Okay, they're constantly one-upping each other, trying to pranking is a big social norm. You're picking on everybody. You got to stand up for yourself. I mean, it's not light. You're supposed to be a warrior. You can't be weak. That doesn't mean everybody's a bully, but it definitely means there's no tolerance for weakness whatsoever. And David really pulls that through. Now, one of the things I definitely like about the Terrell School is it's actually quite small. There's only 100 students at any one time, 32 freshmen on average, and then 10 seniors, okay, because the numbers dwindle. Some of them drop out, some of them even die. But what I like about it is the fact that you know that they're interacting with each other. That's too small for them not to know each other. So that's great excuses to go out with somebody on an adventure, that somebody tagging along or what have you. Me coming from a small school myself when I was a kid, it wasn't as small as this, but you got to know just about everybody more often. So instead of just saying, hey, here's a generic character, if you need to flesh something out, you know that guy now, and then you can make a story about it, and then they can have an excuse to come back. It just makes more sense. Some of the best campaigns that I've always liked was a small town, and this kind of resembles that. Not small like a village where you can't get anything, but definitely not big where in a city where you definitely can easily get lost. And this being a magical school, you definitely have resources at your disposal, yet small enough where you're interacting with everybody. I really like that a lot. Now, this is great. This academic calendar, which is not unlike any other academic calendar, but the thing is that's here in a role-playing game is it's perfect for story arcs and plot arcs to come to fruition at certain times. You could say that, okay, the kids are in, you got your opening ceremonies, you have your orientations, where the characters meet each other, some kind of shenanigans could happen, or it could just be straight up role-playing. Why not? But then you have your midterms, your final exams, and the unholy grail tournament, which is they're pretty much their Quidditch. But all these things gives the game master something to actually give a little flavor to anything else that they're already doing, even if your plot device has nothing to do with the academic calendar, the festival of flowers, or anything. It's a great backdrop for something else to happen to intertwine. You see some movies do this all the time. It has nothing really to do with what's going on in the background, but it adds gravitas to it. It's just a really awesome thing, and I love it a lot. Now, in any alpha-centric society, you're going to have your dueling, okay, whether it be fisticuffs or drawn rapiers in some areas. But in the Treo school, not a surprise, it's about wizardly duels, right? And it can happen just like any other duel in any other place. It could be at the drop of a hat. a small insult, or simply wanting the best, the better player, you know, somebody who's known as a great duelist, right? And they can be one on one. They can also be four on four because, of course, wizards, you know, this being a martial school, you know, you're going to be in possibly some bigger situations than just single one on one fighting. So that is actually a thing. Matter of fact, there is a league of dueling that takes place, and there's a secret society devoted to that. Or I don't know if that's a secret society, but there is a club that's dedicated to dueling because of that. And there is a league that goes around and they become professionals at that point. So that's pretty cool. And what's really nice about it, it gives you an excuse to break out the wizard game. Okay, much like something like David Pulver's other work, or Donerain, the city of Donerain has the arena, a martial arena, typical gladiator stuff, where you can break out the melee game and use that as a plot device. Well, you can break out the wizard game in the Terreo school, and there you go. And so great things all around with the idea of dueling in the Terreo school. And I found something really interesting when looking at the student section because it gave me some insight not only into the setting itself and how takes the fantasy trip, but also just the game, the fantasy trip itself. Sometimes I could take point values as for granted in some ways. You know, you do so many feats, you defeat so many monsters, you get an experience points, and you go you know up an attribute point. But here it's a little bit different. It really gives you the idea that they're learning along the way, because first year students start with 32 points, but by the time they're seniors, they actually got a whopping 36 or 37 points. Okay. Now, usually, if we're playing the fantasy trip, that means that you're putting yourself in perilous danger a lot, but maybe not here because I don't get the idea that these guys are in that constant of danger. Okay. Again, their dueling is like not to the death all the time. They're in dangerous situations and they can die. Don't get me wrong. They absolutely can, but it's not like their feet are in the fire all the time. Okay. So when they get experience points, or if you're a game master, you're getting experience points, it's easy to see that they should probably be going up a point every year, but a lot of their experience points is actually them just being in school, and you're probably going to have to pad a lot of the more when they do dangerous things. Pad that with some extra experience and just say, okay, these since we were here, and it's been 3 months since the last time these characters have been played, we're assuming they've gone through school, and then you get a few experience points for that. I don't know if you'd roll against IQ to see how well they did, maybe give them some bonus experience if they, you know, meet their, you know, maybe make a roll, and then whatever the roll they make it under their IQ points, give them that many extra experience points. Maybe that'd be fine, and just give unless they critically hit or critically fail or something like that, or fail, and you could say they lose a number based on the margin or whatever. But anyway, I just thought that was actually cool of you know how to go over you know off time experience points. I guess is the best way to say you know when they're not in their feet aren't in the fire. Now, this part here is just plain brilliant. And, you know, I wouldn't be surprised with throughout the old decades of role playing that you would tell me that somebody else came up with this idea. But if you were also to tell me that David Pulver was the first one to come up with it, I wouldn't be surprised. Non combat encounter tables. So basically, random encounter tables for the school of Treo rather than a dungeon. You know, are you in the kitchen? Who's there? Is it the proctors? How many students are there? You know, and who are they? It's a terrific idea. Are there any hazards that might be popping up? But then you got the students themselves. You got the whole list, and all these students are in the book for you to use. And basically, you know, you're going down the hall. Okay, how many students are there? Who are you being befriended by somebody, or are you about to be insulted and challenged to a duel? How many people are going to be present witnessing that duel, and who's the more gossipy people to go telling about what your fate is, or if you got the best of them or whatever? This is you know, this could be adventure hooks at the same time, but this is actually more for just flavor. This is beautiful, and it's one of the reasons I definitely like this book. One of the things I also like about the small school stature of Terreo is it gave Dave a chance to really work, even in small details, on some of the more minor rooms in the place. Not everything's got a crazy amount of detail, but it's enough there to go on. Matter of fact, it's also why I like the character section because they're so small. You got the faculty, you got the proctors and everything, but you also have somebody as you know just the cooks, and they have magic too, which I really like also because Of course, they're casting meal spells and everything, but it really goes to show that not everybody that would be a wizard would be trying to use their powers to take over the world. Some of them just try to eke out a living saying, "No, I'm good here." It's pretty wild, and I definitely like how they portray that. The default setting for a campaign in the Trail School of Martial Magic should be pretty obvious, following a group of adventurers that are first year students all the way to graduation, with a lot of things happening in between. The first year, you just get pelted with some seeds of background information, not worrying about that as much as orientation, interacting with other students, going on some basic field trips, which, by the way, are actually more interesting in the Trail School than in others. An example would be actually going after alchemical ingredients for potions, right? I mean, in other adventures, it would be just a side quest and be like, oh, go get that thing. It doesn't make as much sense. It's like, that seems to be just something to do. Here in the Trail School, that would actually make more sense, and you could be more involved. And it doesn't seem like you're doing it for nothing or just to simply get it for a potion. You're doing it for a possible grade or what have you. And your success in getting those ingredients will affect later on, while in a regular campaign, it wouldn't. Other than not having the potion. So it's pretty cool. But yeah, there's a lot of things in the politics section that you can go on it later on in the adventures. Whether it talks about summoning demons or the issue with the mechanics guild or anything. And of course, there's just other wizardly things happening in Ardonarain itself, and just magical research as well. Like any other academic academy, the Treo School has a share of extracurricular clubs that your characters can join. Some of them you can just apply because of basic interest, and some of them are invite only. One of those is the Black Star Circle, which is all about dueling. They see you and they think you have potential. They invite you to a duel, an honorable duel, and if you win, you're pretty much in. And then you have the Spell Sword Circle, which is pretty much the ROTC of the Treo School for those who really want to go down a more militaristic path. You have the Menormanism Society, which also just talks about the past, the ancient past, which kind of blurs the line between wizards and the Mechanicians a little bit. And also another society that's somewhat linked to the Menormanism Society is the Labyrinth Club. Basically all about dungeon delving and stuff. Menormanism, Labyrinth. Two words I know I can't pronounce all at once. Wow, how fun was that? Then you got the secret societies. You have the most powerful secret society, the Wyvern Society, the Stopped Clock Society, which is all anti-mechanics. That one's interesting. The Silver Skulls, which they are all about dueling as well, but they're more of the survival of the fittest philosophy. And then you have the interesting Wishing Circles secret society, which is all about demon summoning, which has been removed from the curriculum in general. But there's those who want that power and they want wishes granted. So that's the whole idea of that society. There's a lot of things that you can already see by what they're all about, how they can influence a campaign immensely. Now, there's no doubt in my mind this supplement can be used by any role playing game under the sun, okay? But there is something about this, other than the title at the top, that says this is the fantasy trip. Not just this is for the fantasy trip, this is the fantasy trip. There is something about it, and maybe it's accumulation of everything that was written beforehand, but the definite has that feel for some reason. I don't know what it is sometimes. I mean, a fantasy trip is a weird cumulative effect of everything from swords and sandals up to Victorian age science fantasy. Okay. And there is just something about the way that is written. Maybe so much stuff has been written by David Pulver, but that wouldn't be true because there's just a lot of stuff. Maybe it's because Steve Jackson just has this in his mind that this fits and that doesn't, and he just put it all together and we get this weird feel of what it is. That might be if he ever does one of his questions 3, or we just surround him at Gen Con or during NordCon or something like that. We can get that question out of him if we shake him by his ankles enough. Just what is the fantasy trip feel? What is that feel that you're trying to portray to us? But if he's not going to answer, this is a supplement that should give you at least the idea. Anyway, guys, that's the video for the Trail School of Martial Magic. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope even more that you grab it, and I'll see you next video.